I really like David Copperfield. I'm a huge fan. I actually saw him live when he came to my city a couple of years ago. And he's really amazing. And that's just it, You have to see him live because, you see this kind of stuff on YouTube or wherever. You see it all the time. But the really astounding thing about him is that he still continues to do live shows. And he does like 2 live shows every day. And that's really the great thing. He's really trying, to really amaze people. And that's really kind of the feeling you have, especially when you see him live. It's like this amazement, Of course, then what people nowadays tend to do is, they try to figure out the trick. And nowadays you can find all kinds of things on the internet. And, they try to find out how he did it. But even when you try to find out how the trick is done, or when you have like a document that describes how the trick is done, it still it still doesn't really explain it. Even when you kind of know how it's done, it's still you still don't really know how it's done. There is still he's so good. The way he performs every trick that he performs is so perfect that even when you know how it's done, it's still amazing the way he does it. Of course, one issue that has come up recently is the lawsuit issue, because someone went to his live show in Vegas, and he was one of the people who got disappeared, what happens is the people go on stage and they disappear on stage and they reappear at the back of the auditorium. So of course the people have to run through some like hidden passage. They have to run to the back of the auditorium, and one guy got hurt while he was running to the back of the auditorium, and then he was suing David Copperfield for a lot of money. And a lot of people then, were kind of disillusioned, saying like, what? They just run to the back of the auditorium? It's all just a trick, the way they teleport from one place to the other is just by walking? Yeah, what did you think? Do you think like Nikola Tesla was beaming them up? That they were flying to the back of the auditorium? That they entered a dimensional hole? What did you expect? Hundreds of thousands of people have been part of that particular illusion. Do you think they all get teleported through magical means? What did you expect? Of course they were walking to the back of the auditorium. How else did you think they got there? I don't know what some people expect. Well, never mind. Anyway, there are already a lot of videos on YouTube that try to explain each and every one of his illusions. But even if the explanation is really good, like I just said, even if you kind of know how it's done, you still don't really know how it's done because he performs them so well. But there is one of his tricks that I couldn't find any explanation for whatsoever, and that's the one with Niagara Falls. And I saw it. I saw it when it was first shown on TV. Back when he did it, and back then I was a kid, and I was really amazed. The entire time I tried to figure out how he did it. And I could never really figure it out, but I have now figured it out. And since that is the only one of his illusions that has no explanation at all. I mean, a lot of his illusions have kind of an explanation, but they still don't really explain it. But this one doesn't have I couldn't find any explanation for this whatsoever. So I just thought, okay, well, I'll share with you my opinions on that, and I think I kind of figured it out. And the trick, because this is really amazing, I really want to mention this, because the trick with this trick is that there basically is no trick. That's the amazing thing about it. Because the bottom line is that he's really going over Niagara Falls. Well, or at least someone is. Because if you watch the video, once the craft is floating down the river, there really is no cut. There are no camera cuts. Once Copperfield has entered that little apparatus, craft thingy, whatever you call it. And also on top of that, there were live spectators as well. So there really are no camera tricks. Copperfield is not like, I don't know, David Blaine or Chris Angel. He really doesn't use camera tricks. And you can clearly see, the entire time, you can clearly see his hands and his legs sticking out. Now, a lot of people have said that those would be robotic hands and robotic legs, but they're really not. I mean, maybe nowadays they would, nowadays maybe it would be possible to construct robotic arms and legs like that. But the way they're moving, I mean, they're really not robotic. And shortly, just seconds before the craft goes down the waterfall, you can actually see him, retracting his arms and legs into that little capsule. So a robot, especially back then, a robot wouldn't be able to do that. Especially if you look, the way he moves. Those are real arms and real hands and real legs, and they're moving. And shortly before it goes down the waterfall, he moves his arms and legs inside the little capsule. And that's important because, like I said, someone is really, it's obvious that someone had to go down a waterfall. Of course, that could be David Copperfield, but since we don't see his head, it might also be a stuntman. So my guess is that it's actually a stuntman. Because, if you look at the capsule, and if you look at the entire raft, it's really done in such a way, and it looks pretty sturdy, and the way it's suspended, it's really done in such a way that it could really survive going down the waterfall. I mean, if you look at that raft and if you look at the capsule, everything about it is really done so that it would really be possible for someone to survive going down the waterfall. Everything about it is constructed in such a way as to make it possible to actually go down the waterfall. And that's also why he retracts his arms and legs. To protect himself, to brace himself, and probably that capsule is watertight. So he retracts his arms and legs, and then I'm sure there is some kind of some kind of lid or whatever you call it, so as to make the capsule watertight. So so that it's really possible to go down the waterfall. And also the way the capsule is suspended, that way, because it's like hanging in the middle there, in the middle of the raft, it will absorb a lot of the shock, and it's precisely, if I was going to go down Niagara Falls, then it would be in a craft like that, in a capsule like that. It's pretty. It looks pretty sturdy. And besides, that wouldn't even be the only trick David Copperfield has done. that basically isn't a real trick, but is basically just a physical challenge for himself. He's done other challenges like that, like for example the one with the fire tornado. Yeah, so I just thought I mentioned this because I really think it's really amazing, and this is really what's amazing about David Copperfield. Even when you kind of know how it's done, it's still amazing, and I think that's kind of the point. I think he became really famous, and he made a lot of money by doing what he does best, and they really. There is no reason, if it would be any other person, he would have long retired. There is no reason money wise why he would continue. I mean, he certainly has enough money, so but he still continues to do what he's doing because he loves it and because he loves to amaze people, and I think that's really great, and that's why that's the way he stands out. But assuming it's a stuntman, how did the stuntman get in and Copperfield get out? I mean, I'm not saying it is a stuntman. It could actually be Copperfield. But it could also be a stuntman. And now I explain to you why it could actually be a stuntman. It's a simple switch, It's the same kind of trick that you see when a magician on stage has a box or whatever, and the magician gets into the box, and then the box is opened, and out comes a beautiful lady, and the magician is suddenly standing at the back of the audience. There are a lot of tricks like that. And it's the same kind of trick. It's a switch. Because, like I said, originally I wasn't sure myself if there's actually a person in there going and then a person in there going down the waterfalls. So I looked very closely at the hands and the legs, and I realized they really do have to be real. Because robot arms and legs don't move like that, and they don't retract shortly before going down the waterfall. But when I looked very closely, I noticed something else, and that is there seems to be a cover or some kind of some sheets or whatever that cover the inside of the contraption of the box, and why would they be there? I mean, so that you can't see that someone is inside, but we know that someone is inside. So why would they be there? Well, because there's someone inside. If there is a switch, there would have to be someone inside all along, even before Copperfield gets in there would have to already be someone in there. So the stuntman is in there all along, and those little black sheets at the opening are there so that you can't see the stuntman. So Copperfield never gets into that box. It's always the stuntman. But where does Copperfield go? At that point, when we think Copperfield enters the contraption, at that point, the raft is still on land. So it would be very easy, the moment they put that contraption, that box down, the stuntman is already in there. And then we see Copperfield go in there, or we think he goes in there. So, like, for a moment, we don't see him. So in that moment, his hands and legs are switched with those of the of the stunt double, and Copperfield just goes behind the contraption. I mean, behind the box, so we don't see him. and then presumably there is a trap door in the raft, so he goes below the raft. But there are spectators there. How can he leave without being noticed? Well, very simple. If you look closely, you notice that Copperfield is wearing those black leather clothes, but underneath he's wearing white. The same kind of white stuff his assistants wear. So he just undresses the black stuff. Then he has the white assistant's clothes underneath. You can already see that he does have that. And then just when the raft is lowered, we see one of his assistants. It looks like he's just emerging from the raft, from underneath the raft, basically exactly where Copperfield would be if he would have escaped through a trapdoor in the raft. So we see one of the assistants standing there, and he's giving like thumbs up. He's giving like his okay, and that assistant also, kind of looks like David Copperfield. I mean, we don't really see him. We don't really see his face, of course. So we don't know if it's Copperfield, but it could be Copperfield. And my guess is that it is Copperfield. And, so there's a switch. So the stuntman goes down the waterfall, and David Copperfield makes a switch and escapes disguised as one of the assistants.